I may not know much about the Caledonian Railway, but what I do know is that they had some rather interesting / unique, but in most cases now extinct, steam locomotive types on their roster. Today, we're looking at what I consider to be one of the more unique / obscure CR engines in the collection that's currently available for TS Classic. This is the 1 Class 440 tank of 1893. The 1 Class was designed by John Lambie and built at St Rollock's Works in 1893 and 1894, with a total build-out of only 12 locomotives. Their intended purpose was to haul commuter trains in Glasgow, and they came equipped with condensing gear to reduce pollution on the Glasgow Central Railway, which had a long underground section between Dalmarnock and Stob Cross, or, as we would know it today, Exhibition Centre. Personally, I reckon the 1 resembles the 439 class 044 tank of 1895, albeit with a smaller bunker and a chassis that looks like it's just been flipped around. Come to think of it, I also think the 1 looks a bit like a tank engine version of the 721 class 440, otherwise known as Donalistair 1. It's a pity that we haven't got a steam-era Glasgow route in TS, since I'd be interested in running the 1 class on her original stomping ground, and visiting Buchanan Street and St Enoch stations, for that matter. The only Glasgow routes in the game, of which I am aware, are all modern image / electrified stuff. In this case, the route on which I was filming was WCML North, which is set in the 1990s, if I'm not mistaken. Thinking back to the 1 class, these locomotives were kept busy on commuter services along the Glasgow Central Railway, but the city's electric trams, which began their service in the late 1890s, took a significant amount of passengers away from the steam-hauled services, so the 1s were used on other duties besides their regular passenger runs, which included a Merry Hill to Airdrie service. The condensing gear was unpopular with locomotive crews, and gradually removed from 1917 onwards. All 12 members of the class passed into London, Midland and Scottish Railway ownership in 1923, and 1927 saw withdrawals commence, with number 11 being the first of her class to go. Apparently, this one never actually carried her LMS number of 15030. Like so many of the numerically small Caledonian types, the 1s were all withdrawn long before the LMS became part of British Railways. In the case of these 440 tanks, they were all gone by 1938, with none surviving into preservation. As for their old stomping ground, specifically the Glasgow Central Railway, this was closed in 1964 under the infamous Beeching Acts, but the section from Exhibition Centre to Rutherglen would later be reopened in 1979 as the Argyll line, and it now forms a crucial part of Glasgow's commuter rail network. Based on how the textures look, I initially thought the 1 class was released for TS Classic sometime in 2022 or beyond, but I was wrong. This pack was actually released in June 2021. As of mid-January 2026, she is still available on the Caledonia Works website for £15 at full price. For the longest time, I didn't have the 1 class in my collection until one day in October 2025, when I saw that it was one of several add-ons that were kindly gifted to me by Chris Wilson himself. 6 liveries are included in this pack in order to represent the 1 class throughout their entire working lives, and the selection is as follows: Caledonian Railway Dark Blue, CR Goods Black, CR Light Blue, LMS pre-1928 Crimson Lake, LMS post-1928 Lined Black, and LMS post-1928 Unlined Black. Initially, at least 3 members of the class were painted dark blue, but conditions on the underground section in Glasgow made it hard to keep the blue engines clean, so the remainder of the class were painted in goods black, and the blue engines repainted by 1898. Personally, I find it so bizarre seeing a passenger engine in this livery. As for Cali Light Blue, this was applied to locomotives 3, 7, 8 and 9 following post-World War I overhauls. Unlike the LNER J36 class, which I covered recently, the 1 class doesn't have a mix of variants that are vacuum-fitted, air-fitted, or only equipped with steam brakes. All variants of the 440 tank are fitted with air brakes, as was standard on the Caledonian Railway. Thinking back to the Caledonian liveries, they are scripted with a few details that you can change in the scenario editor. More specifically, you can add or remove the condensing gear, change details on the smokebox door, and give the locomotive either a dot or crest between the CR lettering on the water tanks. In the case of the LMS liveries, the only customizable detail is the smokebox door star. Come to think of it, it would be nice to get some fictional reskins for these engines, such as BR Ultramarine, BR Brunswick Green, or, if you really want to set the cat amongst the pigeons, GWR Green with Indian red frames. I bring these all up despite, in all honesty, not having the skills, let alone patience to learn how, to make reskins myself. The 1 class uses SimNation's Locomotion 1.4 scripting, and besides the customizable details, her features include, but are not limited to, 3D firebox and coal, fire intensity synchronized with the exhaust beat, customizable headlamp arrangement, with accurate Cali or LMS lamps depending on the variant, cab lighting effects, Performance Mode Pro, animated brake rigging, although you can only see the animation right up close, and a little decoration in the form of a pipe left on the footplate. As for the sounds, I'm guessing they were recorded from the preserved locomotives 419 and 828, as has often been the case for CW's Caledonian engines. Your mileage may vary, but I've found that, while the locomotive can reach at least 45 miles per hour, she is very slow to generate steam, even when she's idling with the blower wide open and the fire mass and water levels at what's advised in the manual. In a sense, she reminds me of the Caledonian Railway 956 class, another locomotive that's slow to generate steam, but the 440 tank doesn't bleed boiler pressure as much as the 956. According to the manual, the 1's ideal fire mass is only between 500 and 510 pounds on the F5 heads-up display, or around 43 and 44% on the Fisher-Price toolbar. The narrow window, and the engine's lack of an auto-fireman, means that you'll have to keep a close eye on firing as you're driving along. As for how locomotive number 7, Lucky 7, performed on this run from Maud to Peterhead on the Buchan line, she had an easy start on the 1:88 descent away from Maud station, and cruised along at around 39 to 45 miles per hour for most of the journey. However, I found the rolling resistance to be quite strong while coasting, even with all the brakes released, so I had to keep the regulator open most of the time. I had intended to reach Peterhead without stopping, and surprisingly, achieved just that. But by the time I got to the end of the line, as opposed to Tweeter and the Monkey Man, I had used up 354 gallons, or around 1,609 litres, of water. In closing, I like the Caledonian Railway 1 class primarily for her, for want of a better word, quirky appearance, but I'm not sure if I'll drive this locomotive on a regular basis going forward. As mentioned, I find that she doesn't steam as well as other locomotives that I've driven, but if that's by design due to how the engines performed in real life, so be it. As for where I'd rate the 1 class, I think she deserves a 6.5 out of 10.